Okay, ladies, we had discussion on Zoom class the other day about provisional or waist cast on. There's several. There's like, I think of it as the itsy bitsy spider. It's a funny one where you do this whole in and out, in and out. Judy's Magic Cast On, I think, is a version of that. My two that I think of, the go-to, if you will, is regular long tail cast on with waist yarn. So we are simply going to long tail cast on the number of stitches needed. In this case, for our pattern, it was only 2. You would then clip the yarn loose and start working. You're not cast on until you've knitted these. So this is still waist yarn on the needle, so it's not cast on yet. So it's just simply a long tail cast on. Start with your little slip knot. Cast on however many stitches it asks for and go from there. In our case, it was only 2. So that's the long tail waist cast on, or provisional cast on. Some people call it a provisional cast on. Whoa. Okay. The crochet waist cast on, you start with a slip knot over your crochet hook, lay your knitting needle in the little hammock formed as you get ready to work. You're going to reach over the top of the knitting needle, grab the yarn, and pull it through the loop on the hook. I'm going to tighten it up a little bit. Now, you have to take the yarn to the back of the needle again so that you can reach over and pull it through. When you're doing several or lots or whatever, you could use your other finger to flip it to the back. Many times, people will just hold on and go to the back. Hold on, go to the back. In other words, it has to be in the hammock before you could reach over top of it. The trick most of the time to a provisional cast on, crochet waist cast on, is that you have to start with a slip knot on the hook. If you do not have the slip knot on the hook, it won't start. We sit there looking kind of silly. Then you're going to crochet a couple. You're going to pull the loop through to secure it, and then there you have, you're done with the crochet hook and ready to start working. In our case, it only had 2. So I also like to put 2 or 3, 4. In this case, I'm going to use a bunch because I'm just going to pull these off. That's going to tell me where to go back to get the crochet waist chain out. This cast on could also be used, let's say you had to do 350. Imagine doing this with your regular yarn. When you got to the end, you're going to stick the loop up onto the needle and then just knit with it. So you'll have that same look at the bottom. Notice the little braid. Looks like a bind off edge, doesn't it? That little braid across the top. So you could have identical top and bottom. At this point, with waist yarn, you are not cast on. You are not cast on until you have used working yarn to knit the stitches. Now we can say that we are cast on, and in our little pattern, it had us go from here and knit 6 rows on those 2 little stitches. At some point, I'm going to have to come back and take those waist cast on stitches out. And that's where the difference comes into play. Okay, so that's what it's going to start looking like. You're going to notice, if you guys have tried this, this wants to twist really bad. I had to kind of look at it when I first started playing with it. What in the heck happened? And then realize that if I just make the stitches lay straight, it comes straight down. But I had to pay attention. Okay, so let's talk about getting these out. Now that I've done it, it tells me in our pattern, hold on just a second. I had these prepared. It told me in our pattern to work. Do you see how it wants to twist? Do you see this? Where, watch, when I straighten it back out, and you see this? Okay. there we are, flat and straight. It tells me without turning, I knit the 6th row. It says don't turn, holding, we still have the yarn. Pick up 3 stitches in the ridges along the edge, and you can see that I have 1, 2, and there's a 3rd one down here. Ridges on the edge. It says to pick up a knit or knit up or all of those behaviors along the edge, 3 of them. And now it's going to tell me, and here's the deal. This was the regular long tail cast on to do these. And here's the hard part of this. Do you see that little, I have to pull on this hard. Do you see that little loop right there? That's the next stitch I need to get a hold of to knit. And the only way to get this out is to cut it. That's, now I'm looking for my scissors. Sorry. The only way to get the waist cast on that you do with a long tail, regular normal cast on, is to cut it, and you have to pick it out. Okay, so now there's the one that I that little tiny wee bit I showed you. And now I'm going to pull up on this, and there's the next one, and I'm going to knit that. And then look, I have to cut that out. Imagine that I had 100 of these. It's the only way to make that happen. I now have the stitches asked for, 2, 4, 6, 7 stitches, and I can proceed from there. So if you choose to use the long tail cast on with waist yarn to do that provisional or waist cast on, understand that you're going to have to come back and cut it out. The negative of that, to my way of thinking, is cutting a stitch. That's the part of that. So be very careful, very mindful before you snip. Use high contrast in your waist yarn so that it's not even sort of close. You can see it very clearly. Okay, so that would be that way. Now I'm going to get rid of this because I also have the crochet waist cast on. And there's that little guy. He's all bent around and funny. I'm going to knit up the stitches. This one, knitting up the stitches. This is the part where you have to stop talking so you can knit. So this little guy comes out. See that little thing I have to pull on? Okay, there's that little stitch. I'm going to knit. Now, here's the deal with this one. I come back to that long end and open it up. I can pull on it to get it. See, there's the one I picked up. Do you see? It's like surgery. Do you see this little one right here? I'm going to grab a hold of it and then watch. I can just pull it out. Oops, wrong tail. Knit that last one. And now I have the 7 stitches. So if I was doing a lot of this, 350 stitches, and I had to pick them out, I'm probably gonna be a little bit happier. Well, there's less risk of cutting or snipping something that I shouldn't when I can just start pulling it. However, did you notice how the yarn got longer as I went to pull it out? If I had 350 of them, at some point I'm going to have to trim that tail. So there is our 2 basic provisional or waist cast-ons, long tail cast-on done with waist yarn, and crochet waist cast-on. That's what I want to say. That's it. I think I've said it all. I was worried about what I was going to say to you. Okay, I think I've got them all. All right, girls, I hope this helped, and I will talk to you soon.